Hi everyone, and thank you for joining. I am Ashlee Shades and you're at Shades of Love, but this one video that I'm doing right now is going to be a little bit different than what I have normally been doing on my channel. This one I am going to call, I guess I could say it's First Look Fridays or Feature Friday. Every other Friday I plan on featuring an author whose books I've read and I can recommend to you. So this first one for my very first Feature Friday is from an author whom I am friends with. Her name is Maria Vickers, and she writes romance of different genres, but the book that I'm going to be reading is an MM romance, which is male-male romance. And it's a novel that I read in my reader group on Facebook, over a year ago, I think, and I loved it. I actually read the first chapter, started crying, and had to freaking buy the book so that way I can get the rest of it. And if you are a fan of that genre or that trope in romance, I highly suggest that you get this book. But let me give you an idea of what the blurb is. It says, they were supposed to be together forever. That was the plan. But through a cruel twist of fate, the night before their 3-year anniversary, Tex Davis lost the one man he would ever love, Memphis King. A year has passed and he still hasn't been able to move on. Everyone tells him it's time, but what do they know? Memphis was his partner in love and life. Losing him broke Tex. Tex has been given an opportunity to move from New York to Seattle. His friends and family are encouraging him to take it, but he has already decided to decline the offer because that would mean leaving Memphis behind. Then something happened. Whether it be fate or something else, Memphis came back to him. Tex's first love is supposed to help him move on, but not even Memphis can bring himself to force Tex to let him go. Is it so wrong to want to spend forever with the person you loved most? Both hearts are begging to be unbroken. And the tagline, 2 broken hearts, 1 wandering soul. So that is what this one is going to be about. And I'm going to read to you the prologue. So if you like that, then just stick around. Here we go. Are you out of your mind? Tex, nothing happened. Memphis screamed for what felt like the millionth time since his lover arrived home and stormed into the house accusing him of cheating. Cheating? Him? Never. Ever since he laid eyes on Tex, everyone else faded into the background. Memphis felt whole and complete with the other man at his side, something he had never felt before and knew he never would feel again. So this cheating bullshit came out of left field. You're going to sit there and tell me you didn't kiss him? Tex seethed, although inwardly. Part of him knew this whole thing was ridiculous. Tomorrow, they would be celebrating their 3-year anniversary, and Memphis loved him. Tex believed that wholeheartedly. However, there was this little pinprick of insecurity and doubt that constantly plagued him. Memphis was sexy, owned a successful construction business, had tons of friends, and had traveled the world. On the other hand, Tex was a computer nerd, and while he could admit that he looked good, he wasn't exactly outgoing. He didn't have a shit ton of friends, and definitely was not a world traveler, until Memphis. Still, the nickel of doubt continued. Narrowing his eyes, Memphis shook his head. No, I did not kiss him, and I never would. The only man I want to kiss for the rest of my life is you. Why the fuck would I want to kiss some kid barely out of high school? His chest puffed out with a deep breath as his eyes slid closed, and he released it slowly. He needed to calm down, or this argument would never end, and he and Tex may say something else that they would regret. Tex, Memphis didn't know what to say to make this better, to convince his lover that whatever his overactive imagination conjured was very wrong. Memphis, I saw you. Saw me? Saw me where and doing what? Memphis could feel his ire rising with every second that ticked by. With him, Tex spat. Internally, his heart screamed at him to shut the hell up. Nevertheless, he was beyond listening to it or anything or anyone else. Clenching his jaw, Memphis crossed his arms over his chest, digging his fingers into his arms lest he punch a wall. He would never do anything to Tex, never physically hurt him, unless it was a spanking in the bedroom, but he would never actually hurt him. His teeth ground together. He might not hurt Tex, but that didn't mean that restraining, clawing his skin, and the like weren't doing a number on his own body, especially since his nails were digging into the new tattoo on his arm. In a deadly calm voice, Memphis growled, "I don't know what got into your damn fool head, but you're wrong." I'm not the only one that saw you kiss him." "Shut the fuck up, Tex. You know Memphis would never cheat on you." He warned himself and promptly didn't listen. "Lunch today, in your car, you leaned over and brushed your lips together." Memphis's mouth popped open, and he stood there gaping at his boyfriend for what seemed like years. But it was more likely less than a minute. He couldn't help it. It almost seemed as if Tex had grown another head or lost his damn mind. Shaking his own head to clear it, Memphis looked at him, staring, and then shook his head again. "I don't know what you think you saw, but I'm telling you right now, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Nothing happened. I would never cheat on you with anyone. You're the only one in my life." "So now you're telling me that my eyes aren't working?" "That's not..." Memphis roared and stopped himself. Grabbing his hair, he bent at the waist, pulling on his short brown wavy locks, and shouted long and loud. No words, just a sound like a frustrated animal who sat teetering on the verge of completely losing it and going mad. "I went to a lunch meeting with Dick. We cut across the parking lot, saw your car. I was walking up to say something and noticed that kid in the car. Then I saw you lean over and hold his face. You kissed him." "You don't know shit." You keep saying that, but you aren't defending yourself other than that." "Fuck this shit, I'm out." Memphis spun on his heel and ran for the door. Yanking it open, he dashed out, raced down the stairs, and exited the building, breathing heavily, trying to calm his anger. Tex stood there staring wide-eyed at the space Memphis had occupied only a moment ago, and then his eyes slowly traced the path to the door. Memphis was gone. He left in the middle of an argument. Something inside screamed, "Go, get him, stupid!" And he bolted after his lover. Shoving the door to the stairwell open, he didn't see Memphis anywhere, and he ran out of the building. His head turned left, searching. Nothing. Right. Nothing. But if he went right, he would more than likely find Memphis at his sister Christy's house. Running as fast as he could, he was soon pounding on Christy's door, completely out of breath. "Where's your brother?" Sniffing, Christy's voice sounded like she was completely congested and hoarse when she answered. "I don't know. Whole house has the flu. He's been warned to stay away. Like you," she glared. Tex fought the urge to squirm under her heated gaze. "Sorry, we had a fight, and I thought he'd come here." "Well, he didn't. And why are you fighting anyway? What happened to the best proposal of all time, or whatever the hell you called it?" "Nothing. I'll tell you all about it later." Tex called over his shoulder, ignoring her shouts for him to talk to her. Racing down the sidewalk, bumping into people and narrowly missing others, he ran past his apartment building and stopped a block away. A crowd had formed. Police lights were making the buildings around him glow red and blue. No. Something told him that was Memphis, but it couldn't be. He elbowed people out of the way, desperate to prove that it wasn't his lover, the other part of his soul. They weren't moving. He shoved and pushed, not caring who yelled or threatened him. One guy grabbed him by the shoulder and jerked him backward and shook him. Tex used both hands to thrust the stranger away. He had to get to the front of the crowd. The anxiety was overwhelming him now, and he had to fight to stay in control. He had to rein in his panic, because there was a chance it might not be Memphis. The crowd eventually spit him out, throwing him into the back of a police. "Back up," the man ordered with a thick Bronx accent. Tex somehow found enough words to ask, "What happened? Who was it?" "Doesn't matter," the other man grumbled. His tone of voice made him sound almost bored, which did not sit well with Tex. How dare he? Bored? Someone was injured and straining to see beyond the officer in front of him, Tex scanned the area, and finally his eyes landed on a form, a long lump lying in the middle of the street, covered by a white sheet. The material was turning red from the blood, and a small river of crimson flowed away from the body toward Tex. "No," he whispered, trying to tell himself that it wasn't Memphis. It couldn't possibly be Memphis. And right then, on the mild spring day, with the echoes of horns, birds, and people surrounding him, a small breeze wove its way through the building in Manhattan and lifted the white sheet that covered the body, giving everyone a glimpse of the horror underneath of the white linen. Memphis. It was Memphis. Tex blacked out. Opening his eyes, Tex blinked once, twice, and then the third time. Where was he? Memphis? He could have sworn he heard his lover's voice calling to him. But this wasn't their apartment, and it certainly wasn't their comfortable bedroom. The bed wasn't big enough to fit both of them with ease. Although now that he focused, it was a hospital bed. What the was it? And then he remembered. Memphis. Blood. The sheet. Lying in the middle of the street, dead. Memphis was gone forever. But hadn't he just heard his voice? Couldn't have possibly been. And if it hadn't been Memphis, he didn't want to wake up either. Sliding his eyes closed again, he tried to hide in the dark oblivion. Too bad it didn't last forever. It didn't even last very long. "Tex, come on. I know you can hear me." Tex listened to the voice and obeyed. But he didn't want to. It wasn't the deep, gravelly voice of his boyfriend. Instead, it was Memphis' sister, Christy. After waking up and realizing he would never get to see, hold, love Memphis again, Tex could no longer pretend that Memphis waited him at home. "What?" he choked out, trying to hold back the tears and pain. "Tex," Christy whispered. The look in Tex's eyes showed a broken man. Her parents had called her whenever they received word about Memphis. And then Tex's parents called and said he had been taken to the hospital too. It wasn't fair. Memphis shouldn't have died. The punk kid who decided to steal the car and drive drunk should have been the one to die. Vindictive? She didn't give a flying fuck. Her boyfriend was dead. Never again would she hear his teasing remarks about her blue hair or about her short stature. Never again would she get to see him smile. Never again would she get to see the pure, unadulterated expression of love on his face whenever he glanced at Tex. Memphis had found his split apart, as their grandmother called it, and now he was gone because some kid acted like a damn selfish asshole. "He's gone," Tex whispered the words, tears burning in his eyes. And when his lids could no longer contain the water, they flowed down his face into the beard, trailing down the forest of hair to his neck. He ignored them, could barely feel them because he felt completely and utterly numb except for the torture in his heart. 2 simple words. Those words made her want to vomit and rip her heart out so that she couldn't feel the pain. Swallowing hard, Christy told him, "Your parents said they would come over as soon as they could. They're catching the first flight back from California." She sounded like a robot, but she didn't know how else to make it through at least the next few hours. Arrangements needed to be made, and her parents certainly weren't up for the task. Neither was Tex. But she would not exclude him. "Memphis can't. I know, Tex," she sniffed. Tex grabbed her arm and pulled her down to him, embracing her small, trembling body, and together they sobbed, both feeling the anguish of their loss. 2 days after he was discharged from the hospital, 2 days after Memphis left him, 2 days after their stupid fight, Tex walked into Memphis's closet. one of the two large walk-ins in their bedroom, and breathed deeply. The scent that was unique to Memphis alone surrounded him, wrapping him in a blanket of comfort. Only it didn't really comfort him. It served as a grim reminder that he would never again feel that comfort. Walking to the very back, Tex started pushing suits and clothes out of the way, searching for the suit that he and Chrissy had decided on. She had offered to come and dig it out of a closet, but Tex refused. He didn't care. It was Memphis's sister. He didn't want her to come in and disturb anything of Memphis's. At the same time, he hadn't entered this enclosed space since before Memphis stormed out of the door. The smell of Memphis was so strong, Tex's eyes scanned the space and found a small pile of dirty clothes. They should have been thrown in the hamper, but sometimes his former lover, dropped and would leave his dirty clothes in the middle of his closet floor until he got ready to do laundry. It used to be one of the things that would annoy Tex, but not anymore. Tex shook his head and returned to the task at hand. After he found the suit and took it over to Christie's, he could come home and break down again. When he was alone, when he had nothing to focus on, that was when the pain became so acute he could no longer ignore it. For someone who ran a construction company, Memphis had a shitload of suits, at least 15. Pushing clothes this way and that, or at least trying to, since Tex was convinced Memphis had more clothes than everyone in New York combined. He tried to find the one suit he needed. The more he moved everything around, shoving the material this way and that, the harder it was getting to remain stoic. Finally, he found what he was searching for, and he jerked the hanger, holding it off the pole. A little too hard. Trembling slightly, he sucked in a shaky breath and brought the dark purple suit up to his nose. It was Memphis's favorite. Tex always loved how it made his hazel eyes pop. Sinking to his knees, Tex buried his face in the material. If it got soaked with his tears, he didn't care. If he left a stain, then at least Memphis was taking a part of Tex with him. If he never got up, never took the suit over to Christie, maybe he could pretend for a little longer that Memphis was simply on a business trip and would be home any day to hold him. He couldn't pretend, though, and the tears that he'd been holding since once again flooded his eyes and overflowed, and Tex held on to the suit a little tighter, crying out, "Memphis!" into the material. "Tex, love you." Lifting his head, Tex looked around and found nothing. He could have sworn that he heard Memphis, but that was impossible. His grief was messing with him. He sat there for a few minutes, attempting to let go, something he would never fully do, and got up off the floor. He would fall apart later. Right now, he needed to be strong for Christy and Memphis's parents, telling himself that was the only thing getting him through this whole fucked up situation. A week after he died, they laid Memphis to rest. The chapel was standing room only. So many people wanted to say something, forcing the time allotted to run over. Tears welled in everyone's eyes, and Tex was simply going through the motion. His own brother stood at his side, his parents close by to show their support. Tex tried to be strong, tried to make it through the service, but as they began to lower Memphis into the ground, Tex could no longer hold back. His heart was breaking all over again. His hand covered his mouth, and he cried, his sobs loud in the almost silent graveyard, with only the sounds of tears from other mourners and the leaves rustling in the breeze. It was when he took a step forward toward the grave that Tex felt something. It felt like the gentle brushing of a hand against his, but his brother's hands were on his shoulders, and no one else was close enough to touch him. Falling to his knees, he sobbed harder. No one had touched him, and Memphis never would again. Well, that was the prologue for Unbreak Me. I do hope you enjoyed it, because I enjoyed reading it to you and sharing with you my love of this one. And if you like this and you want to continue watching my Feature Fridays, I will do this every other Friday, featuring a new author, someone who I have read and I can recommend to you. So just subscribe, hit the notification bell, leave a comment below, and let Maria know if you like this or not, because that would be very, very helpful to her, and I'm pretty sure she would like to hear your opinions on it. Everything you need to find Maria and this book especially are in the description box below, so check that out before you leave. If you like this video and you want to share it, please do. It'll just get the word out about this one. And before I go, like I always say, remember that today was just one chapter of your story.